have a bit of a personal policy that I've followed for years in covering sports, and that's that when I'm evaluating a player, for whatever purpose, whether it's for coverage, to do some kind of analysis, to vote on league awards, I base a lot of it on what I see with my own eyes. And that sometimes can be a little dangerous. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday morning. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. The hockey team made a move yesterday, acquiring Arturs Silovs, 24-year-old Latvian goaltender from the Canucks, in exchange for nothing, really. They sent out Chase Stillman, minor league forward, and one of the $5 billion or so fourth-round draft picks that Kyle Dubas has been collecting, this one from the 2027 draft. And Sealovs comes with quite the set of extremes to both his pedigree and his resume. Pedigree is impressive. Latvia is a tiny country, but Latvia has produced more than its fair share of NHL goaltending, chiefly, of course, for those of you who go back, another Arturs named Irbe, great goaltender in San Jose for a lot of years, who used to refer to himself as being like Wall, which then became his nickname, like Wall. Well, unlike Irbe, Sealovs is a really, really big dude, 6'4", 203, and he was able to work his way up into the NHL for parts of 3 seasons in Vancouver, totaling 19 games with an .880 save percentage. Not good. He also spent parts of 5 seasons with the Canucks AHL affiliate in Abbotsford, British Columbia. 110 games at that level, 2.58 goals against, .906 save percentage. It's a good bit better. But where he really rose up was in the most recent, just now, Calder Cup playoffs, which Abbotsford won, and for which he, Sealovs, was named playoff MVP, going 16-7 with a 2.01 goals against and a .931 save percentage, in addition to 5 shutouts, one shy of the league record. Good stuff. Last time Sealovs was on the ice, he was very, very impressive. And, to my mind, worth this total non-gamble. So what's my problem here exactly? Well, it's those NHL figures, but it's also, well, okay, how many of you were at the November 27 game this past season between the Penguins and the Canucks? If you were there, you just might not remember it or whatever. The Penguins won that game 5-4 after taking a 4-1 lead in the first period. And they took that lead, if we're just calling it like it is, largely because Sealovs couldn't stop a thing. He ended up that game giving up 5 goals on 23 shots. Rick Tocchet was even moved to say after the game, it seemed like everything they shot went in there for a while. And it's not like he was just missing angles or stuff. He just looked like he didn't belong in the league. And before long, as fate would have it, he wasn't in the league anymore. So I can look at numbers all day, but my mind's eye still has Blake Lizotte taking this innocent little carom off the end boards, backhanding it to the front of the net, and Sealovs allowing it to squeak in without even placing the blade of his big goaltender stick on the ice. But, maybe I'll get over that. Maybe he'll actually be a lot better than that. Also, and relevant here, what I think about this doesn't matter at all. He's on the roster. He's going to be in camp. And the way this is going to line up, and this does matter, and it makes sense, is that you won't be bequeathing one of the 2 goaltending jobs to one of the 2 children. Meaning, of course, Yoel Blomqvist and Sergei Murashov. A situation that I didn't want to see in this camp, and it was one of the reasons that I liked having Alex Nedeljkovic in the mix, is one where Tristan Jarry would just be anointed the starter, and then one of the 2 kids, even if both of the kids looked problematic in camp, then one of them would have been the backup regardless. It just wasn't a real healthy number for this specific circumstance. As I see it now, you can still enter camp, and Kyle Dubas has described it this way anyway, as an open competition for the goaltenders. Some players, of course, will have an advantage over others. There are contracts, there are factors beyond that, but if Jari performs the way he did down that 10-5-2 stretch, great. If Sealovs looks like he's ready to graduate from dominating the AHL the way he just did now in the playoffs to becoming a real live NHL performer, great. If Blomqvist looks like he's gotten over those NHL jitters that he had when last he was at the top level, great. If Murashov comes in and just knocks everybody dead, I still don't think he's going to be in the NHL to start, because he's just got to get regular playing time, and there's no way you can have him being a backup in Pittsburgh. But also, great. Could this also be a situation where nobody does well? Of course it can. But the more numbers, the more potential, the better that goes. I admire Ned on countless levels, but I don't know that even Ned would disagree with me in assessing that he is who he is. He's not going to necessarily get better or worse or whatever. He just is where he is in his career. In Sealovs, you got yourself a really big goaltender who's got some significant potential, and what you gave up for him was a fourth rounder, whereas what you got for Ned from the Sharks was a third rounder. It's good work. It's good work. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Tim, and it's in response to my repeatedly bringing up the Penguins finishing this past season 10-5-2. Tim says, DK, the 10-5-2 ending is as smoke and mirrors as the Steelers' 10-3 start was this past NFL season. Go back and see how many second, third, and even fourth string goalies were in the opposition's nets in that run. And then the season total, the Penguins no longer get other teams' A-plus effort or the top goalies. Why? Because they just don't command it. The Penguins don't get that sort of respect from opposing lineup makers. All right, I'm just going to stop you here, Tim, because what I did was I got halfway through this and I went, boy, that's not what I remember. And so I took the extra time here. I could feel Tim cringing now. That's okay. All in good spirits here, my man. But what you're saying just isn't accurate at all. All right? And you're not alone. In general, I get the sense that Penguins fans want to believe that that was all a mirage so that they don't build themselves up for something and then have this harsher fall. And it's so much easier to deal with if you lower your own expectations or whatever. But those games were real, and they really happened against those real playoff teams, a lot of them in their own rinks. And if you want to talk about opposing goaltenders, we can do that as well. The 10-5-2 run began, as I have stressed many times, in St. Paul, Minnesota on March 9th. The goaltender for the Wild, if you want to label him a backup, go nuts, but it was Marc-Andre Fleury. And Flower, by the way, played pretty well that day, gave up a couple goals, and then the Penguins got an empty netter. The two goals he gave up were to Sidney Crosby and Yevgeny Malkin. Nothing all that fluky about that. The Penguins played great. By the way, Tristan Jarry played even better. The next win was over the Golden Knights. Vegas' goaltender, Ilya Samsonov. He's pretty good. Then they beat the Blues. St. Louis' goaltender, Jordan Binnington. You know, the guy that won the Four Nations tournament. Then they beat the Devils 7-3. Guess who was in goal for New Jersey? Jacob Markstrom. The same Markstrom who's had great numbers over the years against the Penguins. Not in this one. Know why? Because they played great. Beat Columbus 6-3. You know who was in goal for the Blue Jackets? Elvis Merzlikins, just like he always is. And you're going to get me on this next one because the Penguins then beat the Senators, who ended up qualifying for the playoffs, of course. They beat them 1-0. Anton Forsberg was in the crease for Ottawa in this game, not Linus Ullmark. But Forsberg, for the record, played 30 games for the Senators, which is a lot for a backup. Had a .901 save percentage, which is really nice for a backup. And in this game was tremendous, 34 saves on 35 shots. Penguins still won. You know why? Because they played great. Now, you're going to get me on this next one because the Penguins went down to Dallas and beat the Stars 5-3. You know, the Stars who made it to the Western Conference Final. Those Stars. That's who. Casey DeSmith was in goal, and this might be one of the examples that you're thinking of here rather than Jake Ottinger. But if you have any kind of recollection of that game at all, it's going to come to you that Sid had a hat trick in that game and was tremendous as part of a tremendous overall effort. I thought this game was one of the Penguins' best of the entire season, all over the rink, not just in finishing against DeSmith. They then beat the Blackhawks 5-0, which is the kind of thing that they really haven't been doing in recent years, if you'll recall. They're supposed to be beating the Blackhawks 5-0 all the time. This time they did it by going against Spencer Knight, who is Chicago's starting goaltender. They then went and beat the Devils again by a 4-2 score. This time Jake Allen was in goal. Allen and Markstrom had pretty much reached the point where they were splitting duties, so you could call either of them a starter. Allen's been a starter. I wouldn't be putting him in the DeSmith category by any means. And then there's finally the game against Washington, which everybody should throw out because the Capitals legitimately rested a bunch of guys and put their number 3 goaltender in, which again is what you might be referencing and attempting to multiply into a narrative that does not exist. It's okay to come to grips with the fact that the Penguins played really well in those final 17 games. You know why? Because they did. Similarly, it's okay to come to grips with the fact that the roster right now is better than that roster of those 17 games. Not by much. Not by much. And you're right. It might not mean anything. It might not mean it. You can lower the bar for yourself to whatever your comfort level happens to be. You can tell yourself they're going to go 0-82 and then just be pleasantly surprised anytime they get a win. But what I'm describing here is reality. What I'm dealing with here is reality. All of that happened. All of us saw it. And who knows, maybe between now and when the hockey games actually begin, the roster will get even a little bit stronger. It's amazing to me that there's still this stubbornness about how you can't possibly retool or pile up future assets while continuing to compete in a salary cap environment. This is not the Sid lottery. This is not tanking for Mario. There is no reason, as we are conversing today, for this team to stink because, principally, the last time we saw them, they were actually pretty good. I appreciate you, my man. You know that. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow.